Today, I am announcing the charges against David Anthony Burke, the musician known as David, spelled D4VD, in connection with the brutal and horrific of Celeste, a 14-year-old at that time.
In her plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors.
Yes, Your Honor. We believe the actual evidence will show David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity.
We'll be very happy to put on the evidence that we've collected in this case in the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter will be set. Plea of not guilty has been entered on behalf of Mr. Burke.
David's family continues to stand firmly by his side, even after his arrest and the 3 charges connected to the case involving Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Despite investigators steadily advancing their case, some of David's relatives insist he is being unfairly judged. His legal team appears equally confident, suggesting that his account of events could ultimately reshape public perception. And that is where the story takes a sharp and unexpected turn. After months of speculation and ongoing debate, the moment many had been waiting for finally arrived. David was publicly identified as the primary suspect in the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
The financial gain was for Mr. Burke to maintain his very lucrative musical career that Celeste was threatening on that particular night. Evidence will be the witness testimony, the documents, and different types of admissible testimony.
For quite some time, the situation seemed unclear, with more doubts than solid answers. But now, the narrative is beginning to shift. With the charges now publicly confirmed, authorities have started outlining new insights into the sequence of events and what they believe truly unfolded. These updates have fueled even more discussion, and there is still plenty to examine and understand.
Motive prosecutors and police laid out today. They made it pretty clear why they think this crime was carried out.
What was revealed today, and something that had not been known until today, is that LAPD detectives believe that this was a way, the murder was a way for David Burke to keep Celeste Rivas quiet. That they are saying that he was on his way up and that he wanted to keep her quiet and not reveal a relationship that had been going on between the two of them when she was underage, under 14 years old, and that this was a way to keep that relationship quiet that she was going to expose.
The overall situation is starting to come into focus, but several important questions are still unanswered. A major turning point in the case is that David is now in custody. His booking photo quickly circulated online, drawing widespread attention. At just 21 years old, he could be facing extremely serious legal consequences if found guilty. The stakes in this case are incredibly high. David has now been formally charged in connection with the case involving Celeste. The most serious allegation includes special circumstances that could potentially lead to some of the harshest penalties permitted under California law. That detail alone quickly gained traction across social media and major news platforms.
Given almost no discovery thus far, we've received a 3-page follow-up report, no autopsy report, and a copy of the complaint. And we would ask the people respectfully to produce discovery at the earliest opportunity.
Your Honor, as I indicated, counsel, there's approximately 40 terabytes of discovery in this case. Moreover, in order to obtain the transcripts from a grand jury investigation, counsel has to file a motion. She knows the way.
Even now, what comes next will fully depend on how the legal proceedings continue to unfold. At this stage, there is still a lot of uncertainty surrounding the possible outcomes. Before getting into the additional accusations, it is necessary to focus more closely on the main allegation at the center of the case. Prosecutors have pointed to several specific factors that they believe elevate the seriousness of the situation and set this case apart from others.
It's not just enough to have a really horrific scene where the body was abandoned. You have to show some affirmative act on the part of David that he...
One of the most serious points raised in the case involves an allegation related to premeditated setup. Based on court documents, prosecutors claim that David invited Celeste over to his home on April 23, 2025, under circumstances that may not have been spontaneous. They suggest that certain events were arranged in advance rather than happening unexpectedly. If this claim is supported with evidence, it could become a key element in how the case develops moving forward.
To cause her death. And I expect that the reason there's been some delay between the discovery of the body up until his arrest is that the police and the prosecutors through the grand jury are collecting as much evidence as they can. So when the time comes to file charges, they have everything they need to move forward.
The newly revealed documents also highlight what seems to be a confirmed date connected to the incident at the center of the investigation, April the 23rd, 2025. Up until now, that detail had not been publicly verified, making this a significant update in the case. Prosecutors have also suggested that financial pressure may have been a factor. According to their claims, David was focused on preserving his career, maintaining his public reputation, and securing his financial position. They argue that these concerns may be closely linked to the events being examined.
To the investigation was Celeste, and the investigation was into the lewd and lascivious sexual acts committed by Mr. Burke that is the subject of count 2 of this complaint with Celeste while she was under 14 years old.
This is the point where the situation becomes even more complex. Another important aspect of the prosecution's argument focuses on the claim that Celeste was aware of matters investigators had already been examining. Prosecutors believe this detail may have played a role in influencing David's decisions and is closely connected to the main charge. They also claim that Celeste was unable to come forward with information or participate in potential legal actions tied to issues raised in the second charge. These accusations carry significant weight, but they remain allegations that will need to be fully examined and contested in court.
It is now up to the DA's office to review the entire case and determine whether there is enough evidence to meet the threshold for criminal charges. Last September, the dismembered body of that 14-year-old was found decomposing in the back of a Tesla connected to Burke that was abandoned in the well-to-do Bird Streets neighborhood of the Hollywood Hills, not far from the Hollywood home that David had been renting. Rivas had been reported missing more than a year earlier when she was only 13.
The second charge focuses on claims involving an unlawful relationship. Prosecutors allege that David was involved in actions that violated the law, and this accusation now stands as a separate charge within the case. The third charge takes the situation to an even more serious level, involving allegations related to the improper handling and dismemberment of human remains following the incident connected to Celeste. When viewed together, these claims have added significant weight to an already high-profile investigation. The third charge also introduces another important point in the timeline. Prosecutors have identified May 5th as a key date linked to their case, based on the sequence outlined by investigators. The main incident is believed to have occurred on April 23rd, while the actions tied to the third charge are said to have happened more than a week later. Authorities note that this period overlaps with the trip David reportedly took to Santa Barbara, which has brought even more attention to the timeline. Observers have also started comparing these dates with David's public schedule. He performed at Coachella during both weekends of the festival, returned home afterward, and according to the prosecution's timeline, the events central to this case occurred shortly after. This sequence has become a major topic of discussion. District Attorney Nathan Hawkman stated that prosecutors believe David had planned aspects of the April 23, 2025 incident. The date they claim is at the center of the case. Prosecutors have also pointed to financial concerns as part of the motive behind their argument. They suggest that David feared serious damage to his personal life and career if certain details were made public. While these points remain allegations, they form a major part of the case being presented. Public reaction has been extremely strong, with opinions continuing to spread rapidly online. The response shows just how emotional and closely followed this case has become. Even though the legal process, one user claimed that his expression alone made them believe he was responsible. describing it as the face of someone facing a lifetime behind bars. Another person focused on his physical build, mentioning his height and weight, while someone else replied by comparing their own and saying there was no excuse for the situation. Some viewers commented that he looked exhausted and slightly swollen, while others pointed out what they saw as noticeable differences compared to his past photos. One individual suggested he appeared heavier than before, saying he looked quite different from how people remembered him. Discussions like these quickly spread online, with users analyzing every small detail of the newly released image. The booking photo soon became a central topic across social media. Some people even compared his expression to that of his friend Now, noting that Now seemed to be smiling in his own booking photo, while David showed no such emotion. This comparison led to another wave of debate and speculation. At the same time, some comments went further, with people speculating about his mental state, adding even more intensity to the already strong public reaction. Many of these claims remain unverified, with no confirmed evidence supporting much of what is being shared online. What is clear, however, is that interest in the case has reached a whole new level. But this is where attention begins to shift. Moving beyond social media discussions, focus is now turning toward the evidence investigators may have collected. According to statements shared during a press conference, authorities say they have gathered digital material along with multiple witness accounts as part of their ongoing investigation. Although the complete details of the evidence have not yet been publicly disclosed, prosecutors have indicated that statements from multiple individuals could become crucial as the case continues to develop. This represents a significant change from the early phase of the investigation, when very little information was available to the public. Now, officials are suggesting that a combination of sources and collected evidence may play an important role in shaping how the case moves forward, with many of the biggest questions still unanswered. Another development that has gained attention is that David's family has continued to stand by him publicly, even as he faces these serious charges. For many people following the case closely, that reaction has been hard to understand. As more information has surfaced, questions have continued to grow about how those closest to him are responding, adding another layer of division to the public discussion. According to reports, Kent Schaffer, an attorney representing David's family, expressed disappointment, but said they were not surprised by the decision to file charges. He also made it clear that the family fully supports David. That statement quickly spread across social media, becoming another major point of debate in an already heated conversation. Some observers have questioned what that level of support truly means given the seriousness of the allegations, while others argue that standing by a family member during legal trouble is not unusual, regardless of the accusations. In any case, the response has sparked strong reactions. Attention is now beginning to shift toward David's parents. As people examine their public statements, online discussions have raised questions about their possible awareness of events connected to the investigation. However, there is currently no public evidence suggesting that his parents have been charged with any wrongdoing related to the case. Much of what is being shared online remains speculation without confirmation. Still, one detail has increased public interest. A Tesla reportedly linked to the investigation was associated with an address connected to David's family in Texas. This connection has led to more curiosity, although investigators have not accused his parents of involvement in any alleged actions. At the same time, David's legal team continues to defend him strongly. In a statement, his attorney said that the evidence would ultimately show that David was not responsible for the events involving Celeste. This directly challenges the claims made by prosecutors and sets up what could become a highly contested legal battle. The Los Angeles County District Attorney described the case as deeply troubling and noted that Celeste was last heard from on April 23, 2025. As the investigation and court process continue, many key questions remain unresolved. Before David's arrest, authorities appeared to take a cautious approach when speaking publicly, releasing limited information while continuing their work behind the scenes. He was not officially named as a suspect until charges were filed and an arrest took place. This approach kept many details out of public view for an extended period, but the case has now moved into a new phase. David's attorneys have made it clear they intend to challenge the allegations forcefully while maintaining his innocence, arguing that the evidence will ultimately support their position. Even with everything that has been revealed so far, many people closely following the case are still questioning what path the defense might take as the situation continues to unfold. This is the moment where the real conflict starts to take shape, as the prosecution's version of events begins to directly oppose what the defense is expected to present. The seriousness of the allegations has also triggered strong emotional reactions. Much of the public discussion remains centered on Celeste and the circumstances surrounding the investigation, which has led many observers to be skeptical of any narrative that attempts to shift responsibility away from David. However, the outcome will not be decided through online opinions, but by what is presented and proven in court. At the same time, support for David appears to be fading in certain areas. While his family continues to stand behind him, his former record label, Interscope, had already begun creating distance the previous year. After the charges were filed, it was reported that the company no longer represents him, adding another layer to the fallout surrounding the case. Questions have also surfaced about why his music remains available on major streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. Some expected a stronger reaction from the industry, while others pointed out that decisions about streaming availability and criminal proceedings are often handled separately. As the case moves forward, the tension between public reaction, industry response, and the legal process is becoming increasingly visible. Online reactions remain intense, with emotions continuing to run high across social media. One comment reflected the anger and frustration surrounding the case, though such statements represent personal opinions rather than established facts. During a press conference, prosecutors also revealed additional details about their theory. Authorities indicated that they believe a sharp-edged object was involved in the incident, and further alleged that Celeste's remains were transported in May. While investigators have not publicly shared every detail, including the exact location they believe the incident took place, one site has drawn significant attention in public reporting: a residence in the Hollywood Hills. As more information comes to light, the timeline is expected to remain a major focal point. Another detail that stood out during the briefing was the reference to a sharp instrument, which suggests investigators may have material supporting their version of events. Even though officials have not disclosed all of the evidence, that specific description points to the possibility of supporting proof behind their claims. Exactly what evidence they have has not been fully revealed, but it is clearly a key part of the case they are building. Taking a closer look at the timeline becomes crucial, as this is where several of the allegations begin to carry even more weight. According to charging documents, prosecutors allege that unlawful conduct involving David and Celeste took place between September 2023 and September 2024. Court filings claim there were multiple incidents during that period, forming the basis for one of the charges now being pursued. These allegations are separate from the primary incident, but remain a significant part of the overall case. This is where the timeline begins to form a broader and more serious picture. Prosecutors allege that the conduct began when Celeste was at an early stage of adolescence, stating that the relationship started during that early developmental period. These claims have become one of the most widely discussed aspects of the case and are central to the prosecution's argument, though they remain allegations that will ultimately be examined in court. The documents reportedly reference Celeste's birth date and highlight the period from early September 2023 through early September 2024 as especially significant to the charge involving unlawful conduct with an individual below the legal age threshold referenced in the statute. Prosecutors are not claiming that all contact necessarily ended after that window. Instead, they are pointing to a specific time frame in which they believe they have evidence supporting the charge. Prosecutors have also claimed that Celeste visited David's residence in the Hollywood Hills in April 2025 and was not heard from again after that point. This allegation directly connects earlier claims to the later events that are now central to the investigation. While many details remain contested and have not been proven in court, the prosecution's timeline is becoming more structured and could play a significant role as proceedings move forward. According to their account, David is alleged to have been involved in the primary incident on April 23, 2025, while a separate charge related to the handling of remains is tied to May 5, 2025. These dates have drawn widespread attention, partly because they appear to coincide with reports of a trip to a remote area in Santa Barbara during that same period. However, many of these details have not been fully confirmed publicly, and the timeline is expected to face close scrutiny in court. Prosecutors have further alleged that Celeste's remains were discovered inside David's Tesla months later. This claim stands as one of the most serious and heavily examined aspects of the case. Like all allegations outlined in the charging documents, it remains subject to the legal process and has not been proven in court.